It didn't begin with evidence or even an argument. It started as a faint current under the skin, a subtle strain carried in glances, and in the way my name rolled differently off her tongue. I convinced myself it was in my head. She convinced me too. "You're just overworked, babe," she'd tease, ruffling my hair like I was some distracted boy who dreamed up shadows. "You're imagining things because you push yourself too hard." Maybe she was right. Or maybe I wanted her to be right, because the alternative meant facing something I wasn't ready to name, that the woman I adored, the one I shaped my entire world around, was slipping from me on purpose. Her name was Lee. For 7 years, she was my first sip of coffee in the morning, and the soft breath I fell asleep to at night. She had a laugh that filled entire rooms, left silly notes in my briefcase, and sang Motown classics while flipping pancakes on lazy Sundays. But that version of her began to disappear, replaced with someone sharper around the edges, perpetually exhausted, always tied up in meetings that had a habit of running well past midnight. I caught myself tracking her lies the way you might count cracks in a sidewalk, subtle, uneven, but undeniable once you notice. I found a folded receipt in her coat pocket once, from a restaurant we used to love. She'd written it off as a business dinner, some networking obligation. "Do you want to see the emails?" she'd asked one night, wide-eyed and defensive. I told her no, because demanding proof meant I didn't trust her. And if trust was gone, what was left of us? So I swallowed it. I smiled when she smiled. I kissed her forehead when she came home, wearing cologne I didn't own. I told myself real love meant loyalty, not suspicion, that it was noble to doubt myself and accuse her. But silence has a way of growing teeth. One Thursday, she said she was going out with Marcy from Ops for a late dinner. Her voice carried that practiced brightness, pitched a little too high, like she was reciting lines from memory. I nodded, even smiled, but something inside me gave way. Without thinking, I drove, no destination in mind. I parked, wandered down 2nd Street, where bars spilled laughter and warm beer onto the sidewalks. Eventually, I found myself in an old jazz lounge, the kind of place that smelled faintly of varnished wood and nostalgia. The bartender didn't ask questions. I ordered a whiskey neat and sat by the window, watching strangers pass, some holding hands, some walking alone. I couldn't stop wondering how many were deceiving or being deceived. By the second glass, I wasn't drunk, just weightless, that strange float where time feels thick. That's when the door opened. I didn't look immediately, only registered the sound of heels striking old wood. Footsteps I knew in my bones before my eyes confirmed it. Lee, her hair pinned up, wearing that rust-colored coat she'd worn on our 2nd anniversary. But it wasn't her appearance that hollowed me out. It was the man trailing behind her. Tall, assured, the kind of confidence born not from effort but from certainty, like he already owned the room. They didn't notice me at first. She was laughing, that full-bodied laugh I hadn't heard in months. She slid into a booth, reaching for a glass of wine, as though it was a well-worn ritual. My body locked. I stayed still. And then her eyes landed on me. The color drained from her face. So quickly, I thought she might collapse. Her hand jerked. The glass slipped, shattered against the table edge, and crimson wine spread across the wood like a wound. Conversation in the bar went still. Heads turned. Her companion glanced from her to me, confusion dawning. I raised my glass, not mocking, not furious, simply acknowledging her, and the truth of all those years I had handed to someone who thought she could step into a bar with another man, confident I'd never see. She stood frozen, lips parted, the echo of shattered glass still hanging between us. She looked like an apparition, truth made visible, impossible to deny. And for the first time in months, my mind was sharp. She had told me I was imagining things, but there was no imagination in this. For a second, I thought she might rush toward me, blurt out an apology, spin some desperate tale like a stage performer trying to distract the crowd after fumbling a trick. But she didn't move. Her hands remained suspended, as though even her body was uncertain what to do next. The man with her glanced from me to her, then back again. I saw the realization creep over his face, the slight recoil in his posture, the subtle tightening of his jaw, the look of someone calculating whether this was about to turn into a public mess he wanted no part of. He muttered something to her I couldn't make out. Her eyes stayed locked on mine. It felt like we were caught in amber, the two of us the only people alive in that bar. I lowered my glass, drained what was left, and stood. The bartender, mercifully, stayed silent as I placed a few bills on the counter. I didn't look over my shoulder. I didn't need to. That image, her pale face, one hand dripping red wine, frozen mid-breath, was already burned into my memory. Outside, the air felt colder than any April evening should. Or maybe it was just me. I walked aimlessly for 3 blocks, as though if I moved fast enough I could outrun the hurt clawing at my chest. It didn't work. Eventually I collapsed onto a park bench near the Riverwalk. The wind coming off the water cut through my jacket, but I didn't move. I sat there, needing space, needing time, anything to feel something other than the heavy ache lodged beneath my ribs. Around midnight, my phone buzzed. Lee's name. I ignored it. A text followed soon after. Can we talk? No punctuation, no apology, no explanation. Just a weak plea glowing on the screen. I left it unanswered. That night, I slept on my brother's couch. I told him it was because of work. He didn't press, and I was grateful. If he had asked, I might have broken. The next morning I went home. She was already there, sitting on the edge of the couch like a student waiting outside the principal's office. She looked smaller than usual, swallowed up by that same coat from the night before, as if it belonged to someone else now. Can I explain? She asked softly. I said nothing. I brushed past her into the kitchen, filled the kettle, and let silence press down like a weight. When I turned, she was standing in the doorway, arms crossed against her chest as though she could shield herself. It's not what you think, she whispered. I let out a laugh, not harsh, not cruel, just worn out. Lee, I saw you. I watched you walk into that bar with him. You didn't see me. You were too busy laughing. She flinched. Please. It's complicated. No, I said, stepping closer. It's actually really simple. You lied. You told me I was imagining things. And then you showed me I wasn't. Her eyes filled, tears threatening to spill. She blinked hard, as though sheer force could hold them back. It wasn't supposed to go that far. I didn't mean for it to happen. You didn't mean for me to catch you. I corrected. She reached out. I stepped back. That single retreat, 1 foot of distance, felt like a canyon opening between us. I was lonely, she admitted finally, tears slipping free. You're always working. You're always tired. I didn't feel seen anymore. I wanted to shout, to tell her I worked so she wouldn't have to worry, that I was exhausted because I'd been carrying both of us, that I hadn't felt seen either. But the words never left me. Instead, I asked, so you found someone who made you feel alive? She lowered her head, ashamed, and nodded. It wasn't about love. I swear, I just wanted to feel like I mattered. You did matter, I said quietly. You still do. But now I have to wonder if I matter to you. She stayed silent. The kettle screamed, filling the room with sound neither of us acknowledged. She didn't move. I poured myself a cup of tea and left hers untouched. That afternoon, I packed a bag, just the essentials, a few clothes, my laptop, enough to stay somewhere else for a while. She didn't stop me. She only stood in the doorway, silent once again, as if she knew words could no longer mend what was broken. Some wounds don't close with apologies, only with distance. I'm not saying it's over, I told her as I paused at the doorway. But we're not okay. She nodded faintly. I know. I stepped out without turning back. Because if I'd met her eyes in that moment, I wasn't sure I'd have the strength to leave. And I no longer trusted myself with that choice. 3 weeks slipped by, 3 weeks of bitter motel coffee, of wandering unfamiliar streets just to keep moving, of nights staring at cracked ceilings wondering how I ended up here, wondering if I was broken, or if we both were. At first, her messages came daily, a steady drip of regret and half-truths. I didn't mean for it to happen. I miss you. Please come back. I read them all, but my hands refused to answer. Because what do you say to the person who set fire to the house while you were still inside? Eventually, The text slowed, then stopped, and it was the silence that hurt most of all. I wasn't expecting to see her again. Certainly not there. Another Thursday, the same day of the week, I caught her in that jazz bar. This time I was back in the city to meet an old college friend who was in town for a conference. We picked a bar tucked behind a bookstore, warm and dim, the kind of place that felt like stepping out of time. At the last minute, he canceled some client dinner, or maybe he just sensed I wasn't in the mood for company. So I stayed, ordered a whiskey, let the low music cradle the dull ache that had become a permanent fixture in my chest. Then the door opened, the sharp click